these splits are not as long as they seem. We're already through week 2.
5 teams with 3-1 records, all tied for first place.
CLG, they were always in the conversation for number 1, then they lose to TSM, and then they don't recover.
Once again, CLG with the better start to the season, come in with a whole bunch of momentum, but TSM control the rivalry.
This is the first time that Dignitas has had 3 wins in a row since summer of last year.
Dignitas at the top of the table at the end of 2 weeks.
We're going to have to see how good this Gravity team is and whether they can maintain a level of consistency.
Sneaky has nowhere to go. Othic takes him out. A triple kill for the new AD carry.
Looks like Liquid can re-enter this fight perfectly, and they're going to start melting down Team 8 here.
The real test will be how they handle adversity as they get into the tougher part of their schedule.
With TSM playing Dig and CLG playing Gravity, we'll finally see some separation at the top of the standings.
Welcome to week 3 of the North American League Championship Series Summer Split. Now we're coming to you in front of this amazing crowd here live from our studios here in Los Angeles. As you can see, there's plenty of energy in the building. NME not too long ago, all business before they prepare for their first match of the day against Team 8. Here's Dodo, Slushy, Nien, under the watchful gaze of their coach, history teacher, making their way to the stage. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, and sharing the analyst desk with me are Aiden's Irene Moon and Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Good afternoon. Great that you said afternoon.
S plus. Yeah. Well, Freak always nags me for saying good morning, so I finally, made the switch. Well, we've got a packed field at the top of the standings with 5 teams all sharing a piece of first place. So, guys, we have to ask, who are the contenders and who are the pretenders? Now, to get a sense of each of these teams' strength of schedule, we've put together the top teams and arranged them by their opponent's record. In this graphic, blue squares denote wins, red ones losses.
Right, we got a nice little visual representation here, and you can see what we're talking about when we say strength of schedule. The teams that TSM beat has a positive win record for the first couple of weeks here, 7-5. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum here, Dignitas, their opponents, while they are also 3-1, their opponents have only won a single game. So pretty big variance. Obviously, it's a 10-team league. Until week 5, there's going to be a big difference between the opponents that each team faces.
All right, well, now let's break down those top 5 teams. Let's start off with CLG, though.
Right, exactly. CLG, I think this is a team that is definitely one of the contenders. They started the split so strong, 3-0. And it's not just that they won those 3 games, it's how they looked in the game. They were very impressive wins. Zion Spartan has really been showing up for the team. Poe Belter's been integrated very nicely into the team. The thing is, CLG fans always get a little bit nervous after they lose to TSM because they did drop that game, their most recent game, to TSM because they have this pattern of, going on till just losing several games after they lose to TSM. That's going to be on their coaching staff as well as the players to break that pattern. I don't think that there's much to that pattern, but it does exist.
Yeah, a team I want to touch on for contender versus pretenders, one that you did at the top with was Dignitas. 1-11 is what their opponents' records are right now. And even though Dignitas is 3-1, a lot of that was off the back of a Zingy and his early game aggression. And he's gone now. Helios is coming into the mix, and I feel like Dignitas is definitely in the pretender category right now. They haven't really faced a team that's looked good, and even though they faced Cloud9 and won, beating Cloud9 in this season is the first time where it's not actually a big accomplishment to do so. So they're definitely in the pretender category.
And then we look at the team that did have the toughest schedule in TSM after their first loss against C9, which had some people a little bit shaken. They look to have righted the ship here. However, they're still a little Bjergsen reliant there in the mid lane, so that's possibly an area that teams could attack moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great weakness to have. If your weakness is, hey, I have Bjergsen as my mid lane, I think everybody will agree with you that TSM are definitely contenders.
Yeah, and another team that I want to talk about is Team Liquid. They're 3-1, and even though that their strength of schedule was 2-10, just a little bit better than what Dignitas had, I feel like they're more in the we do have to wait and see what this team has to offer, because they play Cloud9 and they play Impulse. So we get that rematch of the 3rd, 4th place match, and I want to see where Liquid stands, because the jury's still out on that team.
Right. And then the final 3-1 team is, of course, Gravity. And they made a lot of improvements from just week 1 up till week 2. They cleaned up both their individual play as well as their shot calling, and their off-season changes really seem to be working out already very quickly, which is impressive. We only have to look at last week's OP5. They had 3 of the OP5 from last week. So very good improvements from Team Gravity. But the thing is, whenever we are an organization approaching a system with a continuous improvement initiative, the hardest part is to retain the benefits of those improvements. And you have to standardize and document so that you can build on those improvements in the future and not lose out on what you've been able to improve on already.
And when it's such a drastic improvement in such a short amount of time, I'm always very skeptical to be like, are they really
exactly.
that
Couple of
good?
games, they haven't, proven consistency yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sample size is tiny. Now, there is one other new variable that teams will have to factor into their strategies going into this week. Echo is available in the LCS. And if the European LCS is any indicator, he could go anywhere. We could see him top, jungle, mid. He was played 5 times, 1-4 record, though, so not a ton of success.
Yeah, people are still learning the champion and his weaknesses. But I was talking to teams, and the biggest thing is pick ban right now because they have to throw in Rise and Echo. Do you let them both up and get one? Do you ban both? It's like everybody's still adjusting this week.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm really excited for Echo because he has come out strong. However, it's going to take a while for people to get to learn how to use him. He's a lot harder. He's more difficult to use than Rise. So really, this is a good test for teams of how well they can pick up new champions very quickly. And you're always excited to see that.
All right, well, let's pull up the standings to get the full view of the field. Now, behind the first 5 teams tied for first, we've got NME Esports and Impulse in 6th place. Cloud9 is in 8th with 1 win, followed by Team 8 and TDK in 9th. Then turning to today's matches, we have NME Esports and Team 8 taking to the Rift in our first game. After that, it's TSM versus Team Dignitas. And we'll conclude our day with another battle for first place with Gravity versus CLG. Then tomorrow, be sure to join us for our game of the week with Team Impulse versus Team Liquid. Some of you will remember this as our 3rd place matchup from the Spring Split playoffs where Team Liquid came out on top. As we mentioned, though, this will be the first real test for Liquid this summer after their 3-1 start. And next, we want to get your input on our question of the day. We're asking what new development in the NALCS has you the most excited and why. Send your favorite roster changes, team strats, Echo to @LOL Esports with the hashtag LCS. We'll be sharing the best of the best a little later on. Now, this split, we saw the return of several LCS players. Among them was Inox. His journey back into the league has reignited his love of playing and had a profound effect on how he approaches the opportunity to compete on the big stage.
I was always told by my peers to take every opportunity I can get, and that the ones who really succeed are the ones that never stop trying and just keep going at it no matter how much they get shut down. If I was to say that I was the same person that I was on AG, I'd be called a liar. I was definitely a happy person. Same with the rest of my team. We all love to be like the comedians, the jokers, like always having fun with things, but I was a pushover when it came to things, and I didn't know how important everything was. It was my first year doing like real esports. I had a lot of opportunities for even simple things such as interviews or going to events and like even interacting with fans on social media or going out and signing things. I didn't really know what to think of those, and I was a really shy person. I missed a lot of opportunities and I had a lot of regrets. 3/4 into my time on EG, I found I can't let that stuff get to me. Like, this is my time. I don't have that long in esports. I need to make use of every little second I've got. When I first started capitalizing on that chance to interact with my fans, do those interviews, I knew it's just what I should have been doing in the first place. It was so much fun, and I could really see the growth every time I do something like that. And not only that, just making someone else happy, because I would take the time out to do something like that. I love it. When the time came and I parted ways with EG, I already knew what I wanted to do, which was to continue playing. I was actually set on the mindset of, I need to fix everything that I did wrong in this past year. I now know and have the knowledge. That was just really the driving factor of me finding NME. At first, I didn't really know what to think going back into the challenger scene, but As maybe a week, 2 weeks went by, I knew that it was probably for the best so I could get my fundamentals down as a mid laner. I knew that at the time I wasn't ready for the LCS. Being on NME now and being in the mid lane, it's a lot more natural to me. And that's really just like what gives me the sense of being like relieved. Game 4 against CDK, when we were in that deciding match to make it into the LCS, I actually didn't realize in the final fight that it was the final fight.
Flares goes in, Inox as well. The squishy's all going down. It's only Seraph, but Seraph, guys! That's gonna be the game. NME Esports. Welcome to the North American League Championship Series.
I've never streamed so hard. I felt like I had finally made it, like I finally did what should have been done. We're all aware, like my team and I, that getting into the LCS was the first of our struggles. The struggles ahead are a lot more tough. I've learned how to handle my confidence, how to deal with like at those moments where you question yourself. This is my dream, this is what my brothers dreamed of doing, and I just really want to be able to make it. I want to be able to go back and show my family like, hey, look at this crazy stuff I'm doing. Like, I'm a professional gamer, I've got this stuff going for me. Look at all this following I've got. And I made it.
Yeah, and running into Inox in the hallway, he seems like a completely different person now. He seems much happier with the environment. He has a lot of say in NME and what they do, and the team just has a whole lot of faith in him. And I asked him, what's the biggest difference between playing mid and top in the LCS? And he's like, I sit 2 seats to the left now.
That's the biggest difference.
Also, he gets his choice of who he hugs when they win.
There you go. That's the big one right there. You have multiple options. As a top laner, you only have the jungler, too.
Yeah.
He's talking about, seizing opportunities. Now he's got multiple choices.
All right, well, hopefully that confidence plays and carries through to the rest of the teammates on his team. We've got plenty of games ahead of us today, so we're going to send it over to our casters to get the games underway.
Thank you very much, Dash. And as a play-by-play commentator, all I get is junglers to hug next to me. So you, Kobe, Zyrene, for some reason, you guys all play the same role. Yeah, it's okay. Hey, everyone, what's up? I'm David Frictilli. To my right is Joshua Chat-Leesman, as I alluded to a second ago, and we are setting up for our first game of the day. It's NME Esports versus Team 8. Now, for Team 8, they are still on the hunt for their first win this split, which is surprising when you consider that they were only 1 game away from playing in the spring playoffs last split.
Yeah, it's been a tough road, and this week is a new set of challenges. I mean, first off, we do have to mention Slushy. Unfortunately, Slushy has had an important family issue come up, and he will be leaving immediately after this week to attend to it. Don't know exactly when he'll return, but he will be in for this week. And it's most likely going to be very difficult for him to play without distraction. Add that to the fact that Nyen is still new to the team, and that Porpoise and Cali Trolls have been underperforming recently when compared to last split. And, I mean, Team 8 just has a really tough road ahead of them this week.
That's true. We'll see if they can improve, though. So while Team 8 have to be looking at games like this against other bottom-of-the-standings teams, maybe they can take games like this to start closing the gap. This is one of the games they probably have to win.
Yeah, and Freak, NME's games have kind of shown an inconsistency that does come from playing your first 4 games in the LCS. They defeated Gravity, then they gave TSM a good fight, but then last week they struggled to close out a TDK sub-squad. And we're also seeing those inconsistencies translate into champion select as well. Sometimes it looks like they have a great draft, other times they give up all of the priority champions to the enemy team.
Yeah, we'll see if those plans work out for them in the future. Right now, we're going to check out the starting lineups, though. On the blue side is NME Esports. Top laner Flares, jungler Trashy, mid laner Inox, AD carry Otter, and support Body Drop.
And on the red side, of course, it is Team 8. We got Cali Trolls in the top lane, Porpoise in the jungle, Slushy in the mid lane, Nyen on AD carry, and of course Dodo 8 on support.
Dodo 8 on support. So coaches behind them, players ready to go. All 10 are in the lobby as well. So we've had another week come through. We are on the same patch as last week, if I remember properly,
yes.
Still 5-10.
But different in the fact that Echo is now able to be selected in this patch. And it's actually really interesting now with so many really strong champions out there. It's the one reason that Echo and Rise basically do get through sometimes, because the red side has a lot of agency when it comes to what they actually decide to ban, whether they want to play a game inflated with these strong champions, or if they just want to take it on themselves to ban it out. Because if they don't ban any, it means they actually get some.
Sure, and keep in mind, even though there's the sort of default considered strong champions, there's players who specifically excel on a very small number of them. While LeBlanc is, of course, common, Slushie is really known for that champion in particular, so that like has to be banned by NME Esports. Even though Inox could play it himself, they can't risk it.
Yeah, another ban that's happened 3 times against NME was the mid lane Kog'Maw. I talked to Inox really briefly. He says, yeah, it's so strange. People keep banning Kog'Maw against me. I've only played it once in competitive play, and it was in Challenger. And I was like, well, have you practiced a lot? And he's like, yeah, I was like the first one to start practicing it, and I played it all the time. Maybe
so
that's why.
Aware.
Maybe that's why they banned AP Kog'Maw. But as you can see right now, no Echo bans. We do see a Rise ban. The AP Kog'Maw ban is getting closer and closer to going through. I think we're going to see some fireworks this game.
Depending on the skin, absolutely. We'll see if he goes for that one. LeBlanc, Kalista off the table. You mentioned the Gragas and the Rise as well. Waiting to see if the Echo phase is going to be there, but no. Inox surprisingly banning his own Kassadin.
That's a little strange.
I mean, we know Slushie is good on Assassin types, but he's been happily playing Ziggs for the last month, essentially. And
yeah, that's a champion that has not been banned against teammate the entire split and also hasn't been picked by them.
maybe it's something Enemy found in scrims when these guys were practicing earlier on in the year, but yeah, definitely a curiosity here. I assume Flares didn't misclick. They could have ejected out of Champ Select if that were the case. Final ban coming through as Alistair. Not a big surprise there either.
Echo is on the board.
He is, as is the Kog'Maw. And the question is, with pretty much every single common poke mid still up, unless there's a tier list pecking order where like Kog beats Varus, Enemy could leave that champ up for later, and as you say, Echo might be that important that they pick it up right away.
Yeah, obviously the European
Also
LCS, Echo was picked to ban in 9 out of 10 games. In the LPL where he was available, 15 of 16 games.
Yep.
1 out of 1 so far in North America.
All right, here we go. So
the crazy thing about Echo, so he's definitely strong. And whenever there's a champion that is overpowered in this sense, you get to play him in a variety of roles. And he's so strong that people are throwing him into the team just to have him and then figuring out later where he goes. We've seen him both in the top lane, jungle, and mid lane, and it's a spectacular flex pick in that sense to be able to first pick right now.
Full AP Echo with the mid lane, tank or AP Echo top lane, or tank Echo jungle have been the main builds we've seen so far.
Yep.
We've seen, I believe, Riven as a counter pick to him before in China, unless I'm forgetting the matchup. Top lane Hecarim comes through already, though for Cali Trolls, plus the Thresh picked up by Dodo. So teammates saying, okay, here's your Echo, here's what we want to play. Oddly, though, again, with the Gragas ban and no Rek'Sai ban, Rek'Sai has not been seen yet in Champ Select.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mainly, it's just Dodo wanting the Thresh. They also want to block Hecarim from flares. He had that devastating Hecarim game against TSM where he nearly solo carried the entire game. So, pretty normal picks. I'm a little surprised that Porpoise did not go for the Rek'Sai, only because it's been a staple of his, especially when he's had successful games. But with Sejuani still up as well, and that being a pick that he enjoys, I think they're just going to wait for a bit more of the team comp to come together to figure out if they need the early game pressure against what Enemy picks, or if they go with Sejuani.
We'll see that comes out here then. Team fight comp, early picks, early aggression, any of these things could absolutely happen. The Rek'Sai hover right now is for Trashy. And looks like he's going to let that one get locked in, but Inox needs to pick his own champion here, and they're really taking a long time to figure it out that they want Janna down to the bot lane. When you can go in 3 lanes, you're like, okay, wait, he's not going to be jungle anymore. So, Inox, do you want him yet, or are we still going to wait? Crap, just pick Janna, screw it.
Man, they almost got random to champion right there.
Yeah, it was close.
Would have been interesting. Janna right now, decent disengage against the Hecarim. Plenty of team composition to still come in.
All right, here we go. 30 seconds to go on the next setup here. Cassiopeia, the hover for Slushie, a big team fight mage for them. Yeah, Azir just kind of as well. Slushie's been playing a whole lot of Ziggs, but picked one of the other champions that fit into the role. Nunu also picked up. This team is actually set up to buff Nian if they want him on something like a Jinx, meanwhile.
Yeah, and this is the real reason that we didn't see an early lock-in on Rek'Sai, is especially if they wanted to plan somewhat of a control composition around Nunu Azir. Great synergy between those two. as far as champions that actually can do well against Rek'Sai, Nunu is kind of near the top of the list in my opinion, because yes, he can burrow to close on you, but afterwards, if you just hit him with a snowball, he generally can't get off his auto attacks after his knockup, or even get to you for the knockup if you hit him with a snowball while Rek'Sai is burrowed. So I actually do love this Nunu pick by Teammate as well as the Azir. The only danger is they ended up having to pick Azir blind. And now Inox gets to pick if he wants Echo or something else. Assuming that Flares is put enough
Happy to play Echo
to swap on top.
Yeah, true. We've only seen a very few top lane Echo games so far, literally 2 in professional play, from what I can tell. There is a loss over in China and a win for Huni over in Europe, and it's going to be, mid lane Echo. Gnar top comes through to face off against Hecarim. The Sivir comes through for Otter.
So NME ended up making sure they had tanks in their team, which is generally wise, especially against Azir, because they need to be able to bash him around a little bit. Need to have some type of front line of their own against a strong Teammate front line that we have put together right here.
Yeah. But as far as just persistent damage and team fight power, Teammates certainly have pretty much the best in the business down the line. Cinder Hulk, Hecarim, pretty scary, just blood-boiled Azir in the first place. A lot of amazing things out here for the Teammate 5v5. NME Esports, of course, with the choice to pick their fights with a couple of Assassins and a lot of cool team fight powers like Sivir ulti.
Yep.
We'll see if they can pick the right fights, though, as Teammate look to grab their final slot here.
Yeah, just need an 80 carry. And that's Teammate right there. They're just going for heavy amounts of team fight damage and kind of setting up a position with the Azir and the Nunu. And Jinx can work for that. It really will depend on Nien's positioning, whether he can avoid the Echo assassinations. Echo, really great at baiting people into his ultimate. Pretty good at diving in, but as well as having to get enough damage to actually one-shot the Jinx without your ultimate, you got to pull off a pretty perfect combo on a late-game Echo. So I kind of like that Jinx pick here, but of course, it really just depends on how well Inox assassinates and how well Nien positions.
Yeah, those are going to be very important things, and at the very end of it all, you at least have Thresh to help keep things safe in the end of it. Maybe that'll be enough to keep the Jinx alive. Nien, of course, on 5.10, Jinx in the mid-game's a little bit weaker, but he's just known for getting farm over and over again and scaling up throughout the late game. But I guess I need to ask a little bit of Teammate have almost too much late game. Jinx and Azir on the same team feels like more than enough late game insurance. Nice! It's a good celebratory fist bump for both those guys. They head off stage.
Yeah, history teacher wanting to pick up his first win as the coach of Teammate. Yep. We mentioned earlier, a very important game for Teammate. Always needing to pick up that first win. And of course, NME, they want to get above 500 here.
And that'd be sweet. 3-2 for them would be great. But while the teams load on to the game, be sure to send your picks with hashtag NMEWin or hashtag T8Win to @LOL Esports. Over on Twitter, let us know who you think is going to win this one. You can see the team comps up on your screen. A really big, powerful team fight comp for Teammate. NME Esports bringing the first Echo to North America in Inox's hands.
They're also the first game Echoes available. I guess we can give them the title for having the first Echo.
He gets it.
It's not as special as Lust Boy having the first Bard. Because, you know, people had their own chances to pick up.
Hey, Afro had a ban against him like 4 times.
It's true. And then it got played against him.
It's true. He had the chance to pick it, he
disrespect.
didn't. I know. How unfortunate. But we are onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. Week 3 of North American LCS has begun. And first damage dealt by Inox.
It's basically the game right there.
Yeah, well, Cali Troll says that with a little more time, Team 8 will be a real threat.
I feel a lot more comfortable when playing with Nien already, and I don't think we should be judging by our first 2 weeks right now. We are doing really well on Scrim, and we have potential to beat any team in NA right now, but it just hasn't come out yet due to recent changes in coach and also obviously AD carry.
Yeah, as we saw during that right there, Otter sticking his head out a little too deep into the river for that Teammate brute force invade. It cost him his flash, and at the end of the day, Teammate gets their wards in, but that also meant that NME was able to get some deep wards in of their own. What I liked most about this Teammate invade is they spent a little bit longer to get that ward in their own jungle so that they could track where NME entered for those own wards. So this time it was basically all wins for Teammate. They got the wards they wanted as well as scouting NME, and they burned the flash.
And a really good start for these guys. Deep utility tree for Porbis in order to afford all the wards and everything. just for the interesting insight into his mastery choices. And here we go, Porpoise and Cali Trolls will be double jungling up on this red buff here. And on the safe side of the map, as their dual lane is down on that side, as enemy have lane swapped.
Yeah, they're... Be interesting here what Trashy's read is. He should know with their lane swap that he needs to invade the enemy red, otherwise he'd be in danger of a bit of a 3-buff, but this should be a relatively standard open. And I believe both lanes were able to get a freeze.
Looking into it now, looks like Sivir is actually pushing her lane, and Jinx
Otter
is
was
doing this
unable to get the freeze.
I think this is the standard par for the course when your junglers start on this side of the map correctly, is
When
you
you're
do
four-man.
the fourth wave turret push. Jinx will be a little bit better than Sivir, but Sivir has Gianna, who's better than Thresh in knocking turrets down. So as far as cumulative turret killing power, I would say it's close. Oh, Leash is back, didn't heal though.
Interesting little
Didn't know that could
interaction
happen.
right there.
Yeah.
A lot of times when a leash is back, it will start healing because you've hit the 3 soft leash recap, but it didn't look like they hit the leash cap, and for some reason the red walked away.
Once in a while I see a leash like that.
Yeah, it basically just looks like these guys are going to be doing 4-man turret pushes right now. Neither team is trying to prep 3 or 4 people to race down and catch the big wave that wasn't froze. Because there's a couple of different options you have in these situations. But yeah, it looks like they're just going to be trading each other's jungles and going for the turret kills. At the moment, it's actually both teams hoping for a dive. They're kind of hoping that someone shows up at that turret to get experience, but no one is that foolish. There's going to be 4 people in there taking the turret.
And Teammate actually managed their turret dive quite a bit better. I think NME will still knock the turret down, but Teammate had cleared all the camps a bit faster. They've got a bigger wave to push it down. I believe the bottom turret will actually die first as well, depending how they want to balance this, though. Yeah, okay, if they're just going to balance the wave, looks like enemy will be right on time. That last minion dies, and they will build a freeze for the top laner. Looks like Teammate will have the same after all. So even though Teammate did jungle slightly faster, it did not matter.
Well, they could get the dragon. That's the only,
oh, yeah, you're right.
That's the only main difference when you have this particular lane swap. Whoever decides to go top lane does forfeit a little bit of dragon control. It's interesting what we're seeing out of a lot of these North American teams is it's a very macro-focused style, but it also really diminishes the risk-taking these teams are willing to do in the early game. I definitely am hoping for some more aggressive play this week, because I think there's some windows for exploitation on the slowness that a lot of these teams are doing. But if both teams are doing the same thing, then technically there's not those weaknesses to be exploited.
True.
And that's what happened here. Teammate with the dragon, turret trade, small advantage.
Speaking of small advantages, Slushi also slightly ahead on Inox here, who's been pushed into his turret the entire time on Echo. The CS lead not massive, but is a small lead for the Team 8 mid laner. Meanwhile, we see as the lanes come back to normal, Flares will be holding that freeze top lane. He'll be facing Nien. And of course, the opposite scenario down to the bottom side is Otter invited up to push in towards Cali Trolls.
Yeah, and the tricky thing about this mid lane matchup is Inox gets a little bit aggressive. Is that type of aggression he actually can't do frequently at all with the lane swaps, because there's usually 2 people MIA on the map at all times. It's not just a jungler gank you have to worry about. It's a jungle gank and a support gank and a top lane gank and all the things, which basically turns mid lane into a farm war until you get sufficient ward coverage down. It's actually, in my opinion, pretty solid of Inox to have the CS he has as a melee right now against Slushy's Azir early on.
Yep, he went flash to try to keep himself alive. That should be working out pretty well for him. Porpoise so far playing the control game quite nicely. He got to take the bottom scuttler, get away pink ward, should get the top one on top of that one. Inox still getting dropped low, but he's still like holding up in CS, though he is now out of potions after this one times out.
Yep. Just doing his best. He's going to have to back real shortly.
Yeah, he's out of mana. He can't stay any longer.
He's got 1,450 gold.
Hold on. Porpoise says hello to Trashy. Smite Consume matches level 4, and Dodo's already here. Good flash by trying to stay alive, but there's already a Jinx in this one. The dive from Teammate is surely going to work. First blood goes to Cali Trolls. Porpoise has aggro, jumps right back out. They knock down flares on top of it, and now Body Drop's getting caught out. A summer heal keeps Cali Trolls alive, and it's 3 kills for 0 under a turret. NME's seen this one before.
Oh boy, that is like the classic 4v3 early game, except it happened on the second turret when people were much higher levels. The reason this was so disastrous for NME is because they were funneling in slowly to go defend that turret, which was being slow pushed with a big minion wave by Team 8, and they didn't account for the missing members of the team. So instead of waiting a little bit, grouping up and attempting the turret take as a group, they went in one by one because they didn't want to lose CS, and because the rest of Team 8 was there, they ended up getting crushed. Obviously, it all started in the jungle with Porpoise onto Trashy, but that's the general gist. It was not a clean rotation by NME, and Team 8 punished it.
Well, really good by Team 8 then. Looks like with a 3,000 gold lead, they've done a great job of setting their early games quite nicely here, and looking for the first win on the board. This might be the setup they need to do so. Right now, NME not going to lose their blue buff off that, and they will be able to set up Inox for this blue, assuming he wants it. Right now, he's got to clear this wave under his turret, but knocks it down.
Yeah, he probably wants it. It's just
over he goes.
He's so pushed into his turret that he loses a lot of time every time he goes back. Yeah, he's going for it right now. Rek'Sai, no need for such things as blue buff. What a start by Team 8 here. So not only do they do the Trashy took the blue.
I think it. I don't know what actually took it though. I don't think I saw him auto attack. I looked at sort of passively over on my screen, and I didn't quite see what stole the damage.
Follow the play-by-play. I will watch it on my own screen here.
All right, you tell me what happens. Meanwhile, Team 8 still playing very aggressively. Porpoise and Dodo duo invading. They kill another pink ward. Inox can't get into his own jungle at all.
I don't understand what happened, Freak, with this boost doing. It looks so strange.
And a 4-man push by Team 8 into the mid lane. They just keep making the rotations happen. The early Nunu pressure. Inox comes in for the stun. They're going to catch Nien for a lot of damage, though, and he will go down to Trashy.
Yeah, and we talked about the positioning from Yen and how important it would be, and he's just caught completely out of spot right there. Inox doesn't have to really do much to kill him.
The flash to
Maybe
get it.
More.
The flash made the slow land. He got the passive tick and everything. 2-0-1 on Echo from Inox.
This is a very strange game right there, how all of that turned around seemingly at the drop of a hat for NME, and they continue.
Flash, Gnar ulti, Slushy flashes the wall to get away. He will survive, but maybe not. Trashy's still on the hunt. Of course, Tremor Sense lets him know what's going on. I think he'll live. The mid lane turret will not, and NME Esports ties up the turret game. They've tied up the kill game, and now they're ahead in gold.
So for everything the teammate did in the early game to get that lead with the quick rotations and the dragon fight and catching them in the top lane, that's all gone now.
Yep.
Because NME wins one massive fight as well as being able to take a turret afterwards.
Now their ability to engage and pick fights. They've got engage tools with Gnar and Rek'Sai. They've got the Sivir ulti, and they've got Echo for follow-up. While teammate have a good 5-on-5, they can get picked out. And yeah, exactly what we saw. But Nien with Blood Boil will answer back the turret as NME were forced to recall and buy off their recent victories.
Yeah. Going back a bit, you can notice Cali Trolls in the bottom lane without his TP right here, so NME know that they can get a 5v4, they just have to go in slow. It's mainly because teammate wasn't respecting the Echo zone of control right there, and Yen gets stunned, and that ends up turning it into a 5v3. Plus, you have to add in the fact that they had a Sivir ult. Porpoise is not level 6, so he can't zone with his absolute 0. And yeah, teammate just gets completely run down, all because of the open from Inox's Echo, I have to say.
All right, so we sit back at a game 500 gold apart and with a dragon lead for Team 8. So all said and done, the smallest of leads for the red team. Cali Trolls will have teleport very soon. He's got a completed Cinder Hulk with challenging smite on top of that. So a scary Hecarim definitely galloping around the map. It's a 21 minion lead for this Hecarim here. So certainly a scary top laner. He's even got 100% kill participation.
Yeah, but with all the rotations, something that's happened is Porpoise has fallen incredibly far behind in CS.
Oh, wow.
He's a 13 CS Nunu at 11 minutes. I wonder if when they were double jungling, if he was giving some of the CS to Cali instead of taking it as a jungler, because they're both going for jungle items. But that just puts him so far in the support role. Yeah. As far as needing zone control with Nunu, he just doesn't have it right now because he's so starved for gold.
Yeah, he's 500 gold down. I think some that mitigates it is that he has been taking scuttlers more often. so that'll slightly deflate the CS numbers. I mean, 500 gold
It's
disparity
still 500 gold down.
Oh, I
the
mean,
opponent
certainly.
jungler.
Yeah, I definitely agree he's behind. I just think we'll have to see what he can do then with his Sightstone Rush and no other combat stats then, because he's certainly squishy. Vision control was what Teammate was trying to do. The one mistake cost them, but they have been trying to play an objective game. At least they will have that blood boil no matter how farmed he is. And they can make Azir or Jinx carry their team fights. Cali Trolls has become the primary tank with Cinderhulk Rush. So
pretty much. It basically
maybe it pans out.
It basically switches their team into a double support. Instead of a Nunu frontline, he's kind of more of a supportive bot right now. But Cali Trolls is ahead because of it, right? He was able to finish his Cinderhulk early. Flares is still waiting on his item timings. And with the Dragon live and Cali Trolls having his teleport up, this would be the time where they'd have to go in and try and make an impact with it.
All right, double TP and attempted Frozen Mallet for Flares, which he will not have for another 1,000 gold or so, but that was his intended way of bullying around Cali Trolls. Against Cinderhulk, Hecarim, definitely scary. And we're going to see pretty much equal items for those AD carries, equal items roughly for the mid laners, although we are waiting for Slushie to finish his Morellonomicon. He has money for it, he just hasn't backed in a very long time. Flare's now in a battle. Cali Trolls very far ahead. He's going to dive right on in and cannot quite get what he was looking for as Flares gets away over the wall. And now Slushie is caught. He is flashless, but he's inside a wall and gets away.
Yeah, a little bit of a bug there as he EQ'd over the wall. Could have been visual, not sure there, but he escapes with his EQ, Shurima Shuffle, whatever we want to call it. But because Cali Trolls ulted top, because Slushie is low, it means NME is now going for this dragon. Cali Trolls could still teleport in. It is thinking about being contested. The Gnar TP should call it off.
Gnar TP does come in. Mini Gnar, though, means he's not the most threatening, but it will not be contested as they are missing their star mid laner. Dragons equalized. Gold still 1,000 apart, though, as Teammate feeling good about the places they're getting farmed. And it's actually largely on Cali Trolls, still.
Yeah. So the early CS he was able to get, kind of at the cost of Porpoise, it seems, was giving him that big edge. It was a 2-level advantage he had over Flares, but he could not convert the kill, which is pretty key. And then because of what happened in the mid lane, NME was able to take the dragon afterwards. So it's kind of been a game of Teammate having a decent strategical edge, but then either misplaying or getting a little bit caught out just position-wise. That NME is able to capitalize on those small things, which is all that NME's team is built around here. Sivir ultimate to engage them. They need to be able to have really clever echo positioning to get around all the Azir and Jinx things.
Yeah. Thresh is already very good peel support, and you've got Azir to help. Like, good luck dealing with that backline. You're absolutely right. Again, standout battle lines just simply would not work for enemy esports. So we'll see what kind of trickery they can get themselves involved in. Blue buff goes over. Enemy gonna feel okay about that one. Inox only down 12 CS. He's mostly staunched the flow of bleeding in that lane. He hasn't bought in a long time either, though, sitting on 800 gold, actually. I guess he just picked up boots and a Doran's ring.
Yeah.
He's got so much mana, though. Second Doran's ring, blue buff, and Morellonomicon just feels like infinite.
Yeah, and Echo will definitely be okay, mana-wise.
Yeah.
With this build. Inox is pretty much always going to be sitting in full mana. He's struggling against the pushing power of this Azir, though.
And yeah, with the turret up like this, he's got so little room he could even stand in. Because, of course, and how safe is Azir? You can just keep poking at him. And
well, it's mainly because of this ward coverage that Porpoise and the rest of the team have been able to set up. This double Sightstone this early in the game. Porpoise obviously getting it even before his Cinderhulk enchantment. Littering that side of the jungle with wards, and that's allowing Slushie to play that aggressive mid lane play. If not for Teammate being caught out of position those couple of times, they would be crushing this game, but because they have been, they're leaving the door open for NME.
Well, we'll see if NME can walk through that door, because right now they're just simply sitting in their lanes. Cali Trolls continues to have the gigantic push lead topside and then is also stealing away some jungle as much as he can. Flares will show up to the lane late, but only after losing that wave of minions to that tier 2 turret. Bot lane basically equal. There is some turret damage coming through, and Trashy has come alongside Inox to maybe knock that one down. There will be a Nunu defending, but the 4v3 should be more than enough. But Inox is forced to retreat back down to his mid lane or he loses that turret.
Yeah, as long as Teammate keeps the map pressure up here. That was basically what prevented that push, is the fact that Azir could have pushed down the second tier mid turret, and it wasn't worth NME committing 4 against 3, where they maybe would not even have gotten the turret.
Even a trade itself would have sucked. It's a tier 1 for a tier 2, so.
Yep.
Yeah, so far, NME kind of forced to play in the same lanes. Calitrolls, because he has such a big push lead, he's able to like leave the lane for like a minute and a half, clear 3 or 4 jungle camps, and then show back up there. Like a Nunu who doesn't need a lot of farm. All he has to do is be a ward bot. They've got a basically secondary jungler to pick up that farm anyway. The gold isn't even disappearing off the map. Teammates still farming it all.
Yeah, CS-wise. It's definitely there. It's kind of interesting what NME is doing here, because they've littered the bottom side of the map, dragon-wide, with wards, but they just moved their entire team up where they don't have ward coverage. It means they can't be very safe wherever they go.
Definitely a risk for sure. 2 to 3 in turret kills though. NME missing all their outers. The bot lane not quite dead yet, but close to it. Dragon up in 2 minutes. That will be in time for Flares' teleport. Calitrolls can't use his for the next 2 minutes, or it will be down for that important objective. We just keep seeing the top laners push back and forth. Frozen Mallet finally done for Flares. That should help his 1v1. I want to see if that tilts the matchup much more. I still feel like it's Hecarim flavored, but I'm not much of a top laner myself.
The matchup right now, Hecarim versus Frozen Mallet.
Just since Frozen Mallet's in, but speaking of Hecarim versus Frozen Mallet, how about Hecarim versus Otter? Good spell shield knocks, stops the knockback, and then Calitrolls misses that as well. I'm actually surprised he didn't knock down the spell shield. Normally you rampage a quarter second before E and you pretty much can't spell shield it.
Yeah, that is very true. You also kind of have to add in the fact that Calitrolls is on the tank Hecarim, and especially against the Janna who can peel after the burst, it's going to be really hard for Calitrolls to actually apply pressure to Otter.
That's true.
This may have been one of the matchups where you'd want to go with the Ignite. To speak to the Hecarim-Gnar matchup as well, once Gnar gets the Frozen Mallet, he can really keep Hecarim at bay in most situations from range form. And Gnar can really start to actually bully Hecarim just because of the existence of that item.
Wow. He's sitting 1,100 gold down, so if that does happen for Flares, that just kind of shows you how much of a key that item is. Also a level down. I want to see if this does play out any well. Right now, Calitrolls is just happy to keep farming, going for the Spirit Visage second, it looks like. And Dragon's going to be up in 24 seconds here. Calitrolls, of course, did use Teleport to make that play to the bot side, so TP advantage for this Dragon spawn for NME Esports. They seem happy to play just for the Drags right now and letting themselves farm. They have the mid lane cleared first. They've just recalled on almost the entire team. Very, very few people on that squad have golden pockets. Similar situation for Teammate, though they have a bit more outstanding.
Yeah, they've been so passive after that early getting caught out of position by Teammate. And this has been a struggle of Teammate kind of throughout all of their struggles, is Calitrolls as their shot caller. They haven't been able to find the right ways of kind of capitalizing on any early advantages. It happened last week. It seems to be happening again. They're supposed to be implementing a better system now with History Teacher. Nien coming in, everyone really loves his positive attitude. It helps them make calls in game. I imagine it's working very well in practice, but as far as actually on the LCS stage, we haven't seen it come together.
Yeah. But meanwhile, we're actually seeing NME Esports, the one actually making aggressive choices. They did secure the Dragon. They've now lane swapped Inox to the bot lane. He got the turret because of it. And now Otter is being sent to the mid lane to hold this. Gives Body Drop more room to roam around from this sort of base of operations. And it looks like NME Esports have managed to put in a good number of aggressive wards onto the other side of the map. Meanwhile, we don't see any at all from Teammate, so the ward game is going the way of the blue team right now.
Yeah. But because Dragon was just taken, there's just really not many objectives up on the map. This is kind of your classic game of 3 turrets down on both sides. Because they've traded advantages, neither team really wants to overcommit into a choke point, because that's when they run the risk of getting destroyed. I mean, if Slushie now with the Death Cap and Rellenomicon ever catches NME in a bad spot, he's going to be able to crush them with the Azir, whereas Teammate, if they try and get aggressive, they always run that risk of walking into an Echo clone, who then ults back and kills everyone.
Absolutely, yeah. Chasing into an Echo team is super risky, absolutely, especially an AP Echo. He's gotten Rellenomicon into Luden's Echo. I've seen Def Cap pretty commonly on him as well, but looks like he's going for the slightly higher mobility build. And they've got a Sivir ulti right on the Dodo, and they're going to knock him down.
Baron control is the next logical step. 20 minutes into the game, teammate did not have the ward control. Get an easy pick with Sivir ult. Here comes Inox.
Yeah, careful though. They're right on top of Azir turret next. Got to get right back out of this one. And in comes Hecarim. The cavalry has arrived. He's knocked down. Flares. The chase still coming. Slushy wants a lot to do. Jinx helping as well. Porpoise zoning back, but Otter knocks a kill down. 5-4. Spell shields the Ice Blast. Dodges a zap just by running away, and Slushy is still cleaning up.
2 for 2 so far. Inox on the backside. Very chaotic fight coming in there, with a half turret dive into Calitrolls entering from the backside. It is teammate that comes out a little bit on top health bar wise. They're trying to get a push down the mid lane right now.
And this could be very successful. They're 5 seconds away from the next minion wave. Flares and Otter both dead. That's pretty much their... I guess they do have Echo still for wave clear tools, but it's not a lot. Trashy's kind of waiting around at half health, not able to do anything except soak a minion's worth of experience. Body drop can't help either. Teammate are going to have Porpoise slowed, but there's no engage.
Yeah, it's because all of their damage dealers were far, far away.
Yeah.
Inox with the CDR Echo build. I want to talk about that a little bit. His recommended items for Echo are Luden's Echo and Lichbane, just to kind of multiply his AP ratios up there a little bit, and because with his E, he gets a lot of auto attacks off, plus the move speed is great for his assassination CC pattern. As you can see here, it was just Dodo going alone to try and get a ward in. They were worried of a Baron rush. He could have waited another 5 or 10 seconds to get some backup to go in there, because the Baron would not have been down quickly enough. Outside of that, they then try and dive on top of an Azir turret, but there's never going to be any follow-up, and they have no eyes on the Hecarim. And here goes Slushy.
Ooh, flash knock about a Slushy. The ult is going to buy a bit of time, but not nearly enough. Inox takes him out without even having a flash over the wall. Another 1 for 0, and this time no Azir turret to stop any further pushing.
Yeah, just a really messy game right here. It's going to just come down to positioning properly and getting the right wards up, but mainly sticking together as a team. A lot of split decisions being made by individuals here that are costing them. Sometimes in an overly patient game, patience is the key, which is what's happening right now. Because all the mistakes are actually being, some of the mistakes are being capitalized on pretty harshly. Enemy wants to dive here.
Oh, they land the stun on a Porpoise. They go in, but Inox taking a whole lot of damage. Chain feared, Chain CC, it ults back in, but Ignite is on. He's got to run away. A lot of damage dealt. Ricochet cannot quite claim any victims, except maybe this turret going down after 3 more auto attacks. Teammate zoned away. NME Esports get the kill off the earlier Slushy pick.
Yeah, Inox was in the turret long enough that his clone was actually able to do damage to some of his opponents. Where's this Jinx rocket going?
Oh, man!
Ooh. Well, he's fine.
Still look cool. Unfortunately, no fantasy points for sweet-looking ults for Nien.
It's true. Definitely true. One thing we haven't kind of touched on. You always mentioned in Challenger, Nien's team would pretty much always lane swap to get him into the mid game.
Yeah.
In a good spot. Well, that's what teammate ended up doing this game. They had the lane swap, and as we can see against Otter, Jinx versus Sivir, they're pretty much even in CS. So this is a game where Nien doesn't have to play from a deficit. He has the same items, and honestly, teammate should have the better team fighting team, as long as they're not caught out of position by some sneaky Inox plays.
And at this point, Jinx is now a bigger damage threat than Sivir in about 95% of team fights, so it only gets better from Nien. And again, Blood Boil is amazing. Still only 1 point though. Porpoise has 3 in Consume, maxed Ice Blast. The, I believe, 5 attack speed per level on Blood Boil does not seem to be worth it for him to put any more points into that just yet.
I also kind of think it should be Blood Boiling the Azir.
Sure.
I feel like Azir does more damage.
That's fair.
In these team fights. Secondary Blood Boil target will be Jinx.
Okay. Trust you in that one.
I like the Black Cleaver Hecarim once again from Calitrolls.
Okay, yeah.
Something Flares did earlier. I think it's a great Hecarim item.
I think it especially fits because he hasn't gone Triforce. I think you can't afford to get more than 1 offensive item on most melees here, so with Center Hulk, it does fit the build.
At the moment, though, teammate just has to stall a little bit and then teleport in, but they don't have flank wards for the teleport to come in. Calitrolls is trying to recall 4 home guards, but he can't do that yet. He comes in late and doesn't have home guards.
Dragon 3 already picked up, and the Sivir ulti to get the team out. NME Esports clean Dragon take and the retreat. They miss an ult for it, and they give pressure on the mid lane for teammate, which they're going to use right away to clear the wave. And what can they pressure? Except Baron.
They can try and pressure Baron.
They're going
It's
through
a bit of a
wards.
desperation play right here. They just fumbled their teleport play. If they're going to be threatening a home guard teleport dragon, they have to have the Heckerman base. That's why NME was able to rush it. Now they're scrying orb on top of the Baron. Sivaralt has been burned, so the initiation potential isn't that great for NME. They just had to show up. That's all they had to do. They had to look at Teammate, and they had to go off the Baron.
And Teammate didn't want to engage. They had the Kalitro's ulti, but they thought it was not going to be enough to pick the fight. They do get themselves over to this left side of the map, though, and they've also pinched top lane. So in the grand scheme of things, they've gotten in, but they're still unwilling to push in. Flares will have Mega Gnar. Azir says, don't you even dare try. And if there were a minion wave, that would be a turret kill, but Teammate do not stick for it.
Yeah. It's still a very close game after all of this. And honestly, these are teams that are looking for wins wherever they can get them. Teammates still needing their first win of the split. It's become more and more about this Baron now. And knowing that there's already an Azir ult down, and no teleport for the Hecarim, there's some very real vision gains that can be made by NME right here, if they can sweep properly and deny the vision from Team 8.
Right now, they're going to have Teammate hold the mid lane up. No lanes got pushed off those recalls. Enemy just kind of sat around Baron and hoped they could bait the enemy team in. That didn't happen here. Otter has to be afraid of Kalitro's a little bit. Janus Shield says, I feel good. And we're again at a 1,000 gold game. Of course, neck and neck here. Teammate at 0-4, Enemy Esports at 2-2 in the overall North American LCS. Now that Enemy have had a couple more weeks to work with Trash, it seems his individual performance has gotten a bit better throughout the split. Inox still seemingly the hard carry of the team. Great Echo games so far.
Yeah, I want to see if he can transition that into these late game team fights, because yes, we've seen Echo do some really crazy things, but now that he's been out a bit longer, all 2.5 weeks, if Teammate can avoid following into the ultimate, and if Echo can't get off his ultimate, his effectiveness is greatly diminished a lot, and especially with this NME team. Like, they don't have too much to actually lock people in Echo's W so he can get the stun reliably, unless Trashy goes in, you know, really well with kind of a flash Rek'Sai knockup to get them started. Really, we have to pay attention to Inox in these fights, because he will make or break this game for NME.
And so far, he's made it 100% kill participation, 4 of his team's 6 kills. You think it's pretty much all about him in this one. Enemy Esports have just taken turns having one of their players carry. In their breakout game, it was Otter's Vayne. This game, it's Inox's Echo, and earlier they had almost gotten the win off of Flares' Zarelli, but this time around, they're going to get the knockup and the stun on a Porpoise. Nunu gets a Lantern out, the box comes in, and they just cannot get the kill. Inox at half health, forced ult out for no damage, and the counter engage comes in. Kalitros knocks back Trashy, gets one, and now the tanky Hecarim.
Yeah, and look at Inox just going back in. No ult this time, though.
But look at the follow-up, a double kill for Azir. Jinx is in the fray. Nien can't quite catch body drop, but it's a 3-for-1, 4-for-1.
Yeah, and making or breaking that game. Inox could jump in, but he never got a good ultimate off. He had to go back. They couldn't finish Porpoise. Focusing Porpoise and Thresh in the first place doesn't deal with the real issues of this team, which is Nien and Slushy. Despite being down 3 dragons, with the superior late game team fighting composition, Teammate takes that fight heavily in their favor, 4-for-1, plus the Baron afterwards.
So that's what Teammate needed.
Yeah, looking at this one more time as well. Inox saw the pick opportunity, but honestly, the real pick opportunity was Porpoise and Slushy and Nien down on the bottom. All these people up top are just distractions. Teammate down at the bottom of the screen are the real guys. Slushy coming over the wall, and the Azir damage is the real threat, because Enemy could never funnel in at the right moment. Inox gets chunked by those Azir shots. It allows Nien to come in from the back afterwards.
It feels like Enemy aren't respecting the fact that a 5-on-5 is not good for them. You can't chase through Azir and Jinx with proper peel. Just the damage just feels too high.
Yeah, it really appears like Enemy got trapped into a fight there, because they were going for the quick pick kill onto Porpoise. When they didn't get it, they saw the Lantern, they saw how low he was, they thought they could keep chasing. It ended up kind of tricking them into a team fight. Now they're against a Baroned up Azir Jinx team, completely on the back foot despite being up dragons.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And Dragon up in 45 seconds. That will be during the Baron buff of teammate, meaning they might get a second one themselves. Top lane tier 2 being defended for now. Calitrolls is killing a ward on the flank. Like, enemy has to know a tower dive could happen here. And the tank line, I feel like, is big enough that they could tower dive. Calitrolls walks away after pressuring the mid lane, but that gives enough time for top tier 2 to go down. Teammate flip pushing quite cleanly.
Yeah. Even with Baron minions, Sivir is still a pretty good wave clearing champion, but because of the split push there by Calitrolls, it sucks enough attention down to the mid lane and let them get the outer turret. It's the outer turrets there, I call them the middle tier turrets, I guess, that are the ones that are the real target of the first Baron of the game. That's mainly what teammate is focusing on getting here. If they got an inhibitor turret, it would be a big win.
Yeah, there's always a chance. A misstep or a great play can always end you up with more than you expected to have. We had a fairly slow game for the first 20 minutes, but recently it's picked up. Slushie gets a blue buff steal on his way out, and Calitrolls will even try to snag this red. Now, he is alone in this one. It's flashes, but he has the ulti. Gets away with his life. Red buff will go to Otter after all. Now, Dragon's up, and all of teammate have already recalled in time. You notice, like, enemy esports, they don't even try to ward the river. They're like, yeah, you're right, that's yours, enjoy the dragon.
And here's the big thing, Calitrolls back in base. I thought he was going to wait for home guard TP threat, but he just ends up running down and they take the dragon anyway. Would have been great to prep a dragon, but because it was uncontestable anyways.
Ooh, NX not quite in range. Lich Bane, Ludens. He timed out by now.
Hey.
It's not going to get him.
Well, at least he's pushing the wave. And they have a head start on this wave. Teammate has to go back to base with the slow recalls.
Oh, Nian unwilling to base trade.
Thought about base trade. But
He should. He has no words to know that it's safe, though, is the problem.
yes, because they didn't
If you
spot
knew all
the rest
5
of
was
NME.
there. Yeah, exactly. Like, now they see 3 or 4 of them. They know the only guy missing is the jungler. But yeah, the threat of Inox, I guess, too high, and Yin will not split push that turret down. All the neutral objectives now off the map. We have about 3 minutes on Baron.
Look at the ward, the lack of wards right now. One scrying orb, it's on Nien. We know that enemy needs to be able to get a quick pick to win these fights if they can catch someone scouted out of position.
Wow. Teammate, they're like, we see Sivir. It's a bait. I'll bet you they're all in that brush. That ping is what that meant.
Yep.
That was slick.
Yeah, and a big wave stacking in the bottom. Need to be cleared.
The funny thing is, enemy being stuck in their base means basically nothing. Both their buffs are gone. Dragon and Baron are gone for 2.5 to 5 minutes for each one. Teammate, like, there's literally nothing worth them warding, really. They're going to be the aggressive team, it looks like. They just get wards back in the bottom left of the map, at best.
And Slushie hits some really powerful item breakpoints right now with Ludens and Deathcap to go with his Void and Morellonomicon. The first soldier move with an auto attack, just that, placing a soldier, queuing into someone with it, proccing the Ludens, and then also having the soldier hit you once, is at least half of Inox's health or Otter's health if he doesn't spell shield. And that's not even where Azir gets most of his damage, which is from a sustained fight. But they're trying to pick off Nien. Where's the positioning? Teleporting in. No home guard for the Hecarim.
Azir's far away as well. It's going to be a bit of a 4v3 at the start of it all. They jump in onto Porpoise because they cannot catch Nien. His ult only hits Trashy and Calitrolls. Very tanky in the front. Dodo shows up. Porpoise still taking damage. Calitrolls just refuses to go down. Finally picked up by Flares. And there's more coming in for Inox. Azir now joins the fight. Can Slushie get anything here?
The carries of teammate are still alive, but their front line is gone, so they have to be very hesitant about how they approach this. A hook would be great. Right now, enemy running towards the other team's base, but they have the speed, and because of the lack of front line, it's very hard for teammate to approach. Not a group right there when they were caught out of position. Enemy going to try and push the mid lane.
Teammate jumped into enemy territory without enough wards, without their mid laner. Enemy smart enough to capitalize on that one, and they get a nice surge of gold to almost tie the game back up. 1 minute on Baron, and enemy may have the control to get wards over that first. And in fact, that's exactly what Bodydrop is doing.
Teammates still in position to win this game, of course, with their team comp. And yeah, it was basically, I don't necessarily know why they were down there without the Azir. They could have just had a little bit more patience and pushed it as a team. But because they did not, you can see this very crazy fight breakout. NME, you know they're far behind. They didn't even have the cleanest win there. Flares almost fell down. But Inox basically just picking off whoever he could because the realistic damage threat is Slushie, and he is there very late. He doesn't even get soldier damage over the wall once he does arrive, and it ends up being a very lackluster collapse from Slushie's Azir.
And these 80 carries, despite all the crazy things that have happened throughout this game, of course, we're very close in, and they are sitting on equal items, which, again, at 3.5 just means more for the Jinx. Baron now alive, Dragon in 2 minutes. A lot of farm on basically everyone. And
this is real dangerous, but they do have the Azir. It's good zone control. Let's watch this fight.
Stun for Echo to catch Nien! And Baron Nashor goes to the red team. Everyone is alive still from Team 8. Slushie will get chunked pretty hard by Inox. They're going for Cali Trolls now. Trashy is gonna be the first one knocked down. A double kill as Otter's also dropped. Down goes Flares as well. It's a 5v2 now.
Team 8 is so superior in team fights that they can just start the Baron like that, get their 80 carry stunned by an Echo, and still come out on top in the team fight. Now with Baron and 30-second death timers on 3 main members of NME, just an Ox and body drop. This could be the game, Freak.
It could be indeed. 22 seconds to go till any of the valuable members respawn here. Mid inhibitor goes down. Baron buff still there. Inox just does not have the wave clear. He's at half already. Body drop barely does anything. And look how fast Nien and Slushie knock these turrets down. 1 more to go. Team 8 to get their first win of the split. The dive to Nien. They can't quite get him. That's Brillanomicon, not Ignite. Here's the respawns. Can they stop the game in time? Slushie diving in. A fear from Cali Trolls. 1 more hit. The Nexus goes down. The first win of the split for Team 8.
And it could not have come at a better time. They needed this win. So many difficulties for these guys coming into this game. Slushie playing great despite the adversity he is facing. So very gutty performance here by Team 8. It wasn't the prettiest game, but it counts. 1 and 4 now for them, knocking NME to 2 and 3.
Absolutely the scoreline. So 1 game apart now for both these teams as we've crest the 5th game of the split for both these guys. Team 8 looking for that late game insurance. Slushie finding another champion to be successful on. 1 is laned by a little bit, got the enemy turret down as well. In the end, as late game insurance as well, that worked out nicely. And Porpoise donating farm to Cali Trolls. Cali Trolls was part of 13 of his team's kills, actually highest kill participation.
Yeah.
He missed out on 1. They gave the farm to Cali, their top laner Juggernaut Hecarim, and it worked out for him.
Exactly. As a Hecarim, too, it's not one of those guys who can just throw like a Jarvan flag down and get all the assists. Hecarim, he's got to be in the fight for a while in order to get the assist credit. A lot of short-range abilities. It's one of those games that Team 8 needs to have more of, funneling things through Cali Trolls and actually getting Nien to the mid-late game without a deficit. That's the big thing that they weren't able to do in a lot of their previous games. Nien was falling behind early on in CS, and then the team obviously couldn't come back from deficits, being able to get the early game lead. They absorbed enemies' mid-game aggression and the pick comp that they were trying to pull out, and eventually Team 8 was able to force some team fights down the stretch.
Yeah, good job setting up on the Baron. The lane swap plan worked out. I guess Team 8 got a Dragon for it. Actually, interestingly, NME was the one that actually initiated the lane swap, if I remember properly. They sent their dual lane up to the top side.
They did.
I gotta say, I do prefer Team 8's dual lane as far as a 2-on-2 goes. That might lead to why NME would lane swap there, but yeah, it let Nien, as we're talking about, get a bunch of farm, be a late game Jinx, didn't really have to team fight till he hit at least 2 items, and the whole plan, the whole team fight plan of Team 8 worked out just fine. The Cali Troll shot calling, again, you mentioned a couple of missteps, and they were there, but he was there for all the kills that mattered, really.
Yeah, and the lane swapping also curbed the mid lane aggression in this game. So the Azir Echo matchup, Inox could never really go aggressive because of fear of all the roamers. So Slushie and Nien, the 2 main carries, had good games. 3rd main carry, I should mention, Cali Trolls with his monstrous kill participation. So that's the way Team 8 does want to win games.
All right, well, good job to Team 8 on this one. For the lowdown on that first win of the split, let's send it down to Riv on the red side.
Thank you very much, gents. Great first cast on the day. I am joined by Nian of Teammate, getting their first win here on the summer split. I got to ask you, man, how does it feel to be back?
Feels good, man. Feels good.
What's it like being on the stage? It seems like there were some nerves right in the beginning of the first few weeks, but then you start to kind of shake those off. A few mistakes in this game, but still the victory. What has kind of been the process of ironing all that out?
Yeah, last week I was just really out of my element. I just played like way worse than I normally do. So I'm happy that I could play a lot better today and hoping to keep that trend going for the next few weeks.
And what's kind of been your transition now back into the professional scene? Like, what have you kind of level up once again, or has it kind of been hard getting back into it?
It's been kind of hard. I think all the AD carries in NA are like super good right now. Like Core JJ, for example, really, really good player. He usually owns me in scrims, so it's really good practice to play against all these really great AD carries. So glad to be here, glad to play.
Right on. Final question for you so you can get out of here. What are you doing finally to level yourself up to help Teammate continue with these victories?
I'm just trying to do my best, like make good shot calls and just try to have a really good game, not feed in the early game like I did last week. So just trying to make it to the mid to late game, team fight really well, and just hope for the best.
There's a lot of weight on your shoulders, man. Best of luck in the rest of the season. Congrats on the win. We're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to break down Teammate's victory.
Thank you, Riv. First win there picked up for Teammate. Very big for them, especially given the fact that they are going to be losing Slushy after this week. Though, let's kind of figure out how exactly they came up with this win, because we saw a lot of early aggressive moves there, especially made by Porpoise early on, which we hadn't seen in the first couple weeks of play this summer split.
Yeah, they had a really good early move at the top turret, able to get that 3-kill lead. They also got the objective lead from it, catching Rek'Sai while she is using tunnels in the jungle and able to press them and shove them off of the turret. That was a really good start for them. However, in the mid game, a lot of good plays, from NME and some, oversights from Teammate allow NME to get back in this game, using Echo, using a lot of those vision plays as well.
Yeah, and that top lane dive actually put Cali Trolls ahead, so he was in a point where he's shot calling from ahead, and it set up this Hecker that has TP Smite, so he just starts snowballing, and Flares was pretty much a non-factor this game. You never saw a team fight where he jumped in with a Mega Gnar ready to go, so he wasn't on the same page as his team, and they weren't ready for a lot of those engages. So he was like, just faded away.
Yeah, Jab mentioned the kill participation of that Hecarim. Really great kill participation across the board, though, for Teammate. I want to hit back on the point that you brought up, Kobe, which was a couple of those mid-game falters. We're going to bring up the replay 8.5 minutes into the game. Watch a little bit of Echo play here in NA. Inox, the first person to pull it out. Take it away.
Right. So at this point, NME are working with a fairly big deficit because of that top turret action that went down. However, this is one of the reasons why I really like seeing the new champions picked up immediately. Not only does it take a long time to learn how to use the champion, but also how to play against the champion. Let's roll the clip here and we'll see that Teammate, they don't respect the W. Echo really amplifies this new champion effect because of the timing delays on his abilities. He gets the double stun there and doesn't even stick on those targets. He runs immediately towards the back line, looking for extra kills, allowing his team to clean up those ones, having the faith in them.
The flash here.
Yeah, beautiful flash there to be able to get that Q as well. So I really like to reward players, like Inox, that want to pick up the new champion as soon as it's available, and they get to use those slight edges because the enemies, they're not used to looking for the animation of the W kick. It's got a really long activation time, so you can work around it. As people get more and more used to it, we'll see them play around it better.
Yeah, and as the parallel convergence was coming down, his time winder, the Q, had already hit Nian twice. So when he jumped in, he got the movement speed bonus and then was like, all right, you guys handle Nian, I'm going to rush.
I'm running for the hills.
Exactly.
We're making a comeback, and it's starting right now.
And we've also talked a lot about what lanes he would show up in, top, mid, jungle. Shows up in the mid lane here in the first game, but I do also want to look at build paths because pro players are throwing out a lot of different options. You hear a lot of discussion on Twitter. Everyone thinks there's a better build. We saw that Morellonomicon Lucidity Boots cooldown build for Echo this time around.
Yep, I definitely think CDR and Mono Regen's the way to go on him at the moment. I see a lot of solo queue where it's like Luden's Echo, Lich Bane. It's like you need some CDR behind that because the base cooldowns of his abilities just kind of in the mid-high range.
Exactly. I just think it's more reliable having the cooldown reduction because you can get those combos off a lot easier. The thing is, there's definitely importance. You still want to go for Ludens and Lich Bane. Those are very good because the whole point is to have this bursty front end damage to get them to the 30% threshold. Then you've got this amazing execute passive built in, and you can clean somebody up. If you try and rush that, it's a lot more risky of a build. You can snowball way harder, though, in the mid-game while people have, less defensives. But it's just, I feel like that's too risky for pro play, especially.
All right, now I want to skip a little bit further into the game, switch back over to Team 8. We're going to go 29 minutes in. 4-for-1, that nets them Baron. This was a huge turning point here for Team 8.
Yeah, this was NME really setting up some picks around the Baron and trying to bait it out. But what ends up happening is they end up baiting themselves, because as we roll this clip out, you're going to see they throw everything at the tanks in the tank line, and they start soaking the damage when Nien and Slushy are both very vulnerable off on the side. So you're going to see everybody jumps in here. The parallel convergence is down. It's like, all right, Porpoise gets stunned, throw everything on him. But look at Slushy and Nien. They don't have a tank line near them, and the TP comes up on top. So you see Flares, this is the time that he jumps into the fight. And he's like, oh, I gnarred the wall. He doesn't hit anybody in this fight. He goes after Nien to try and zone him. But on the left side, Inox is blowing everything on Porpoise and Cali Trolls. So it ends up being a 4-for-1 after the chase down, because the damage dealers, where we have an Azir and a Jinx, and they are untouched. That is how those champions want to play League of Legends, is just completely from the back line.
Yeah, the team comp there from Team 8 was just beautiful. They had so many threats from all three of their solo lanes, and a Smite TP Hecarim is even more snowbally than the regular Ignite TP Hecarim. So when he had a good start, Cali Trolls is going to be a huge factor.
All right, well, great win there for Team 8 to kick off their week 3. Of course, today's games are already delivering with Echo Play. Coming up next, we've got a battle for first place between Team Solo Mid and Team Dignitas. We'll be right back after this.
That's the kind of stuff that I don't want to hear up here. I don't give a crap about that. Give a crap about this game that we're playing right now. And we're going to win.
Right, meow.
He's got to get right back at this one. In comes Hecarim. The cavalry has arrived. He's knocked down. Flares. The chase still coming. Slushy wants a lot to do.
We win this. We win this. We win this. We win this.
And he don't
No. Slow it down. We have Blood on you.
Go back on body. Go on her. Inox.
Back! Let's go, baby!
Slushy will get chunked pretty hard by Inox. They're going for Cali Trolls now. Trashy is gonna be the first one knocked down. A double kill. Here's the response. Can they stop the game in time? Slushy diving in. A fear from Cali Trolls. The first win of the split for Team 8.